Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for having me on here. Let me frame this a little bit. First of all, why are we doing this operation? And the president's been pretty clear about what's happening here. First of all, the administration, as well as Prime Minister Netanyahu, came to the conclusion that despite the success of the 12-day war and Midnight Hammer taking down a nuclear enterprise, the Iranians weren't about to change who they are and what they intended to do in terms of their objectives. The evidence was clear. They were rapidly recovering their missile program. This is short-range and medium-range missiles. They had a few thousand. They were increasing that by additional thousands. And that became a very dangerous element in of itself. Secondly, they made a decision to recover their nuclear program, but nothing consequential in terms of actions taken, but the intent was there. Third, they began to fuel and support their proxies with money and also with weapons and munitions. In other words, Iran, despite the 12-day war and what was done to them, they weren't changing one bit. Their aspirations, their goals, their objectives were going to remain the same despite all the negotiations, the posturing, all the rest of it. So that is number one, and that is why we're doing this. Secondly, is we put, by establishing a condition-based operations, which we're conducting, this could last 2 to 3 weeks based on the conditions. And what are those conditions? Those conditions, we want to set the conditions for a regime collapse. So we're starting with leaders, both civilian and military, and national parliamentarians and military leaders. The results of that will likely take days to sort out. No confirmation yet on the Ayatollah and his son, but yes, they were targeted. But it's so much more than that. It's the entire infrastructure that sustains this regime. That's on the political side in terms of its legislature, all the agencies that support the regime, and on the military security side, the IRGC, the Bas-el militia, the police infrastructure, the entire defense industrial base, wherever those manufacturing centers are. They intend to deliberately and methodically strip away all this capability that sustains this regime. And if it takes 2 to 3 weeks to do that, so be it. That is the plan. At the same time, taking down their military capability. And what is that? It is largely their short-range and medium-range missiles. They began very weakly in response to the attack, and that surprised us because we thought they were ready and they were going to, as advertised in terms of intelligence, conduct a massive response at U.S. bases and also at the Israelis. Did not happen. But now they are stepping up those attacks. But there's a huge focus on the launchers and the ballistic missile storage sites and the very missiles themselves. And we're killing systems even when they're in a launch position. That's how responsive the Israelis and the Americans are being here. Also, all the naval capability where they can go out and do harm to our ships and also disrupt the Persian Gulf. Those are largely the military targets that are underway here. And I must say, this is a condition-based campaign to set this region on a path, the regime on a path to collapse, in addition to bringing down once and for all their capabilities to do harm in the region. Those are the two things. Another data point for you. Within 3 or 4 days, we'll expect the potential suspects of Qatari, Turkey, Egypt to say we should have a ceasefire. Let's make a deal and have a ceasefire. We'll have politicos in our own country doing the same. We have no casualties as of the time I came on this show, U.S. casualties. We may indeed have some casualties by then. It's expected that we likely will, realistically, in dealing with this regime who does have some capability to retaliate. But what we have to stay focused on, even though these overtures are going to be there, let's stop the fighting, let's stop the killing, is we got to accomplish our military objectives first, and then certainly an end to those hostilities and work with what's ever left in Iran so we can bend them to our will. That's kind of where we are.
Very well done, General. Thank you for that. Follow-up question. The Israelis have the back of the Americans and vice versa, the Americans and Israel. The Americans also have suggested that they'll defend Kuwait and Bahrain and Qatar. With regard to Iran, who will come to Iran's defense, if anyone? When you think about the Chinese that have had a cooperation relationship with them, the Russians more so than the Chinese, but you would suggest that they are on that side of the ledger. Absent that, who would defend Iran?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think the 12-day war gives us some insight here, Bill. The reality is Russia and China did nothing. North Korea did nothing to assist Iran. Hezbollah, when I was talking to the operational planner and oversight of the mission every single day, after 3 or 4 days, I mean, he wrote the plans and oversaw the operations. I said, how come Hezbollah hasn't fired back? Did we destroy all their missiles? He said, sir, they got a couple thousand missiles still left. He said, the reality is we broke their will. We decapitated so many of their leaders, they don't want to get into this thing. I suspect that's still where Hezbollah is today. The Israelis have warned them, you stay out of this fight and we will do no harm. The Houthis are another matter. They have less allegiance. They call their own shots. I suspect if the Ayatollah is in fact killed, they may get into this fight to some degree. But listen, we are prepared for Hezbollah joining the fight. We are prepared for the Houthis if they get in the fight. And believe me, while they have some capability, what we would do to them would be quite devastating. And I think they truly know what is at hand here based on the evidence we've been demonstrating for weeks now in terms of the buildup, and they certainly know the resources that the Israelis have. And so this, by the way, so our audience understands, the United States military and the Israeli Defense Forces, they are the two most proven militaries on the planet. And we have come together to conduct a combined offensive operation to achieve finite military objectives. And we are going to achieve those objectives, believe me.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.